This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Alderman Vaughn would like to yield to Elder Hawkins, and we will observe, for a word of prayer, and we will observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we bless you now, we praise you, we honor you. We thank you for your goodness and your mercy, your love and your kindness and the benefits you've given us today. We come today, Lord, you said in your word that in all our ways acknowledge you and you direct our path. And on today, God, we thank you that our city leaders are acknowledging you. And Father, I pray, whatever decision made for our city, whatever needs to be done for our city, that you would direct their path, because they're acknowledging you in the name of Jesus. Father, we pray blessings upon the leaders of our country, the leaders of our state, and God, the leaders of our city, our mayor, the board of aldermen and alderwomen, that you would bless them and their family. We pray, Lord, for the men and women in uniform that serve our city to protect us and the service, Lord. We pray for them and their family. God, let righteousness reign. Put your hand upon the city of Starkville in the name of Jesus. And God, we honor you. We give you praise because you are worthy to be praised. We love you. We bless you. We ask these things in our big brother Jesus' name. Thank you, Father. Amen. Amen.
You have before you a copy of the written agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written? Any proposed changes? Alderman Little.
Item 11.2A. I'd like to add that, move that from planning to board business. First item. Remember.
11.2A, that is a consideration of a street closing by the Starkville Main Street Association.
Yes.
Proposed revision by Alderman Little is to move that matter to where in board business?
10A.
All right, so that would become the first matter under board business, and the matters that follow that would all be moved down. Alderman Little, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Do I hear any objection? Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Saying none. Alderman Little, do you have further proposed revision?
I do not.
Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I recognize.
You may.
Mr. Mayor, under personnel, I-4, the rate progression plan, I ask that we remove that from the agenda for consideration until our first meeting of July of 2016.
All right, so you want to propose it, do you want to postpone it specifically?
Postpone it specifically until the first meeting in July of 2016.
All right, so let's take that in the form of a motion.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
A motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to postpone item 11I4, which is the request for approval of the proposed rate progression plan and authorization to advertise to fill the positions of Operator 1 in the Starkville Utilities Water Maintenance Division until the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen in July of 2016. Alderman Perkins, is that your proposal?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
All right, so I have 6 in favor and a little against. Were there any others against? All right, so that measure passes. Alderman Perkins, you have further proposed revision?
Move approval of the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to approve the agenda as revised. Alderman Perkins, is that your motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Do I hear a second? Second. Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the Consideration of the April 5th, 2016 minutes.
Move approval.
Motion's been made by Alderman Little to approve of the minutes of the April 5th, 2016 meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, incorporating any and all changes recommended by the city attorney, otherwise as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. All right, that will take us to announcements and comments by the mayor and members of the board. And first, I'd like to introduce our newest police officers. And we'll have 5 police officers that I'll be introducing tonight. First, I'd like to introduce Justin Butler. Justin is originally from Philadelphia, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Neshoba Central High School. He attended East Central Community College. Justin previously worked for the Choctaw Police Department as a police officer. Justin is the son of Ken Butler, Jessica Butler, and Tanya Henry, siblings Ashley, Zach, Jeremy, Amber, Tyler, Jordan, and Kristen. When time permits, he enjoys watching sports, working out, and spending time with his girlfriend, Fern. Justin also has 2 dogs, a retriever named Charlie and a boxer named Kaiser. Please join me in welcoming Justin. Next, I'd like to introduce Michael Cooper. Michael is originally from Sturgis, Mississippi, and is a graduate of West Oktibbeha High School. He attended East Mississippi Community College and Mississippi State University and majored in graphic design and medical technology. Prior to joining the city of Starkville, Michael worked for Flex Steel. Michael is the son of Frederick White and Elander White. He has a sister, Audra. During his free time, Michael enjoys drawing and playing basketball. Michael attends Boyd Chapel United Methodist Church. Please join me in welcoming Michael. Next, I'd like to introduce Aaron Hanahanaho. Aaron Hanahanaho is originally from Hawaii, in parentheses, the Big Island, and that was placed in parentheses because I had so much trouble pronouncing the actual name. Would you like to pronounce the name for it?
It's Kayla.
Okay. You did it much better than that. And is a graduate of Colony High School in Palmer, Alaska. He attended Central Oregon Community College prior to joining the city of Starkville. Aaron was a member of the United States Marine Corps helicopter air crew. Aaron is the son of Lyle Hanahanaho and Tina Christofferson, and is married to Kelsey. He has 1 brother, Caden Hanahanaho, and 2 sisters, Logan Hanahanaho and Kiana Christofferson. During his spare time, Aaron enjoys flying, aviation, hunting, being outdoors, and playing with his 2 dogs, Aniak and Coda, and guinea pig Monica. He and his family are currently seeking a church in Starkville. Please join me in welcoming Aaron. Next, I'd like to introduce Princeton Henderson. Princeton is from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville High School. He has an associate's degree in art from East Mississippi Community College. Princeton also attended the University of Southern Mississippi. He previously worked at Walmart as a manager of the electronics department. He is the son of Mary Henderson and Joe Lindsay. When time permits, Princeton enjoys hunting and fishing. His family attends Second Baptist Church in Starkville. Please join me in welcoming Princeton. And finally, I'd like to introduce Colby Huffman. Colby is originally from Houston, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Houston High School. He attended the University of Mississippi, where he majored in criminal justice. Before joining the city of Starkville, Colby worked for Food Basket as a store clerk. Colby is the son of Brand and Amanda Huffman. He has 1 sister, Mackenzie Huffman, and 1 brother, Jordan Harden. When Colby isn't busy, he enjoys working out, riding motorcycles, shooting guns, and playing with his cats, Cece and Elby, and dogs, Jada and Beans. Please join me in welcoming Colby. Thank you, gentlemen. on May 27th at 11:30 a.m. We will have our grand opening of the splash pad. Always an exciting event, as the splash pad has been very well used since the day it was opened, and I believe the Parks Department has been working very, very hard to make some special changes to the splash pad and to spruce it up. So this will be a nice day for our community. And at this time, I'd ask for the Starkville High School robotics team to please come forward. And coaches. Y'all can go up closer. Yeah. All right. It is my pleasure to recognize another group of state champions with a proclamation congratulating the Starkville High School Yellow Jackets robotic team for winning the South's Best Regional Robotics Championship. Whereas the Starkville High School Robo Jackets are 4-time state champions in the Mississippi's Best Robotics Competition, having engineered their way to the most recent title from 2015 in the 2015 state competition that was held at Mississippi State University on October 2nd and 3rd, 2015. Whereas the Starkville High School Robo Jackets captured their first ever regional crown at the South's Best Regional Robotics Championship held at Auburn University on December 5th and 6th, 2015. Whereas the Robo Jackets won first place, beating out 54 teams from Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee for the regional title. Whereas, in addition to the grand prize, the Starkville High School Robo Jackets were awarded the Best Team Exhibit and Interview, first place, Best Spirit and Sportsmanship, second place, Best Robotics Team, third place. Whereas, much of the team's success is credited to coaches Denise Adair, Ty Adair, and April Dill. Credit is also given to parents and mentors Angie Forrester, Bubba Forrester, Heather Wainwright, Granville Barker, Jamie Jones, Stacy Young, Yoki Thompson, and for providing countless hours of time and effort, as well as leadership and guidance as advisors. Whereas the 2015-2016 team consists of graduating seniors Marshall Adair, Jamie Forrester, Troy Johnson, Reggie Manning, Tabitha Robinson, Lakeisha Young, 10th graders Tyler Adair, Wyatt Carpenter, Gavin Jones, Levi Mitchell, Lakira Young, Tyler Dickerson, Noah Rutherford, Ben Barker, Matt Richner, Luke Snell, Beckett Hopp, Eric Lowry, Omar Trejo, Jacob Wubben, 9th graders Caitlin Jennings, Latham Blake, Anna White, Gabriel Middleton, Marshall Skelton, Mason Seymour, Chandler Cunningham, Miracle Nidakichefa, 8th graders, Abigail Barker, Keisha Gray, Rachel Adair, Josh Wainwright, 7th graders, Joey Forrester, 6th graders, Jonathan Forrester, Parker Brazil, 5th graders, Curtis Gray, Kaiwan Gray, and now, therefore, I, Parker Wiseman, Mayor of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, do hereby congratulate the Starkville High School Robo Jackets team and coaches Denise Adair, Ty Adair, and April Dill, and advisors on their extraordinary victory in the South's Best Regional Robotics Championship, and proclaim Tuesday, May 3rd, 2016 in Starkville to be Starkville High School Robotics Team Day. guys. All right, I'll tell you what. Next, Chief, I'm going to call you up. Present our resolution. And Chief, let's go to the center. So Chief Nichols spent the day last week in Jackson with many of his counterparts being recognized by the Mississippi legislature. And I will now read the resolution that was passed honoring the Starkville Police Force as well as the others in the state that have achieved state accreditation. This is House Concurrent Resolution number 126, a concurrent resolution commending the accredited law enforcement agencies of the state and designating the month of May 2016 as Mississippi Law Enforcement Accreditation Month. Whereas the Law Enforcement Accreditation Program was established to address the need to enhance law enforcement as a profession and to improve law enforcement service delivery to the communities of the state of Mississippi. Whereas accreditation elevates the level of professionalism of the men and women who serve within accredited law enforcement agencies. Whereas the accreditation process is lengthy and time-consuming, but those agencies who seek accreditation persevere towards excellence until they reach their goal. Whereas becoming accredited ensures greater accountability within the agency and gives the Chief Executive Officer a proven management system of written directives, sound training, clearly defined lines of authority, and routine reports that support decision-making and resource allocation. Whereas accreditation leads to reduced risk liability exposure, stronger defense against civil lawsuits, and a reduction in liability insurance costs and reimbursement of accreditation fees. Whereas accreditation embodies the precepts of community-oriented policing and creates a forum which law enforcement agencies and citizens work together to prevent and control challenges confronting law enforcement and provide clear direction and community expectations. Whereas a law enforcement agency is more likely to receive staunch support from government officials after becoming accredited because accreditation provides objective evidence of the agency's commitment to excellence in leadership, resource management, and service delivery. Whereas the following police departments, sheriff's offices, and other local enforcement agencies have the distinction of being an accredited agency: the Biloxi Police Department, the Brandon Police Department, the Byron Police Department, the Canton Police Department, the Cleveland Police Department, the DeSoto County Sheriff's Department, the Forest General Hospital Police Department, the Gulfport Police Department, the Hattiesburg Police Department, the Jackson Police Department, the Lauderdale County Sheriff's Department, the Lee County Sheriff's Department, the Madison County Police Department, the Madison Police Department, the Mississippi State University Police Department, the Ocean Springs Police Department, the Oktibbeha County Sheriff's Department, the Olive Branch Police Department, the Oxford Police Department, the Pascagoula Police Department, the Picayune Police Department, the Ridgeland Police Department, the Southern Regional Public Safety Institute Academy, the Starkville Police Department, the Tupelo Police Department, the University of Mississippi Police Department, the University of Southern Mississippi Police Department, and the Vicksburg Police Department. Whereas it is the policy of the legislature to recognize the outstanding law enforcement agencies of the state, especially those who strive to better their agency through the accreditation process. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the state of Mississippi, the Senate concurring therein, that we do hereby commend these law enforcement agencies which have put forth the time and effort necessary to complete the law enforcement accreditation program by proclaiming the month of May 2016 as Mississippi Law Enforcement Accreditation Recognition Month, and extend the best wishes for continued success serving their respective communities. Congratulations. That concludes my comments this evening. Are there any comments by the members of the board? Mr. Mayor, I got it. Alderman Mayor.
Good evening. As this board approaches the 3/4 mark in our term, and we can begin now to look at really what we want to accomplish in the final year of our term. This board is going to face some tough decisions and some unique opportunities in the next 14 months. They will include tonight's consideration of the future of our police department. In our next meeting, we will look and consider the future of industrial development in our city and our county and what Starkville will look like. Soon after that, we will be asked to adopt and accept a new comprehensive plan and codes that will help shape the future of our city. We also have a study that's being completed on our parks and recreation system. We will need to begin to define where our city sees our future path for recreation and leisure. The school system is getting ready to construct a new partnership school in 2017. And finally, we must continue to look at our infrastructure and how we meet growing pressures on our roads, bridges, water and sewer lines, and utilities. None of these are easy decisions, and they must be considered in light of each other. All of these are worthy of consideration, and really all are very exciting and point to the fact that we are a growing and prosperous community. As I've said since my first seating on this board, we need to look and think long term. We can't just make decisions on what's good for today. We have to look at the future and the position it's going to put us in. I'm looking forward to the final year of this term and what it has in store for us. Thank you, Mayor.
Any further comments from Alderman Nguyen?
May I be remiss if I didn't say this? To the men and women that serve our city that are here present with us tonight in the blue, I say thank you for your attendance here tonight and thank you for your service. Thank you. May I yield the floor this time?
Further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. I want to recognize Alderman Vaughn.
Thank you, Alvin.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Thank you, Alvin.
And Alderman Walker.
Thank you, Alvin.
Citizens have worried, and my church they don't want anything to happen to Chief. They don't want anything to happen to me. They're proud of what we do for the community. As I said the last meeting, Chief need all the help. And school is finna get out, it get warm, and we're gonna have problems. We're gonna have problems with troublemakers, I call them Junebug. They are gonna be doing some of everything. So we need all your prayers and all your help. And because if we run them maybe a block, we hoping that the K9 unit be the mayor. Because you can't take wrong and make it right. Camelot, we would like for you to check on that as well, because it still have a few people that is nervous still. And for the public, if you have the red light and those buses come turn, don't just sit there. That bus have to make a safe turn with people on it. So if you see the bus turn, if you have to bag up and let the bus make the turn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Further citizen comments? Do we have any further citizen comments?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, board members. My name is Chris Taylor, President of NAACP, and I want to thank the mayor, the vice mayor, and Alderman Nguyen for coming to the banquet. I missed the rest of you, so y'all owe me. Now, this is why I really came up. Now, we changed the school board meeting to the second Tuesday of every month, and I have yet to see you all faces. You know, it's going to be a tough decision made with that school board we got. And so you need to just show your face sometime. We need you up there. It ain't for intimidation, it's for putting them back on the board once their term is up. And that tough decision, just like Alderman Maynard said, tough decision. And we need someone on the school board that would be able to make those tough decisions. Because right now, I question some of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Further citizen comments?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alicia Hart. I'm with the Starkville Mayor's Youth Council, and I just want to say thank you for having us attend.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. Do we have any other Mayor's Youth Council members here tonight? All right. It's been an excellent year, and I look forward to putting cords on our graduating seniors in a couple of weeks and welcoming back our non-seniors, hopefully, for another good year. Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? All right, seeing none, the next matter before us is a public hearing. This is a public hearing to determine whether the property at 100 Dr. Martin Luther King Drive is a menace to health, safety, and welfare of the community pursuant to Section 21-19-11 of the Mississippi Code, and the city attorney has asked to be recognized first. While the city attorney is speaking, Mr. Sanders, if you could make your way forward to introduce the matter.
Thank you, Mayor. It is a statutory requirement to attach all of the notice provided for this public hearing to the minutes. So I just wanted to articulate the notice that has been provided. Certified mail notice went out to the property owner on April 12th, return receipt requested, and that return was indeed, or that receipt was returned to the city. That's received by the property owner, and I will pass that to the city clerk. Also by certified mail, notice went out to the subject property address 124A, Dr. Douglas L. Connor Drive on April 12th. Certified mail notice went out on April 12th to the subject property address of 124B, Dr. Douglas L. Connor Drive. Certified mail notice went out to property address 100 East Martin Luther King Drive on April 12th as well. The property owner was personally served with process for this hearing on April 19th, and the summons and a return for that summons is attached and is being passed to the city clerk. The notice for this public hearing was also published in the Starkville Daily News, and the affidavit of publication showing that it was in fact timely published is also here and being attached to the city clerk or presented to the city clerk. And then finally, notice was posted on the subject property and at City Hall 2 weeks out from this hearing, as evidenced by the photographs attached in this packet and passed to the city clerk. So my opinion is notice is proper for this public hearing to go forward.
Mr. Sanders, would you like to introduce?
Sure. Our code complaint was filed by the city's utilities department. The code enforcement officer and the chief building official made an inspection and found that there was items making the area unsafe, in particular a sinkhole at the northeastern portion of the building, along with odor and pool of water that appeared to be sewage. Springer Engineering was retained to do a report in which structural issues and raw sewage was found at the property.
Are there any questions or comments from the members of the board for Mr. Sanders?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Carter.
I guess my question, as far as being a menace to the public health, is this inside the four walls of that building, or is this something that's exposed to the general public where they can get to it, or
Both.
it is outside the walls of the building?
The hole or the gaping area in the northeastern part of the property adjacent to the building is open to the public. The sewage is underneath the building.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Sanders? Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Sanders, engineering firm Spring Engineer, Mr. Holland Cox issued a report. Have you read that report?
I have.
And in the last sentence of his report, do you have the report before you?
I do.
Would you turn to the last sentence of that report and read that to the board about the structural issue that you just briefed the board on? Would you read that to the board?
In my opinion, the structure is in a dangerous condition and human occupation is questionable.
And the structure he's referring to is which structure?
The structure located at 100 East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive.
Okay. I yield, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Alderman Ball.
Mr. Senator, could you also read letter F on the second page?
Yes, sir. A water sample from the junction box was collected using applicable ASTM standards. The test results show fluoride and fecal coliform bacteria present in the water. Since fluoride was found in the water sample and is added to the city's potable water supply, this would indicate that some of the water in this pipe originated from the city's water supply. The low fecal coliform bacteria results suggest that raw sewage is not flowing directly from the junction box. See attached test results. However, the junction box was the only accessible location at this time to satisfy the sampling of the water. Further water testing should be conducted in another location of the storm pipe.
Thank you, Mr. Senator. I yield, Mr. Mayor.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Sanders. We'll now move to the public comment section of the public hearing. And at this time, if anyone who wishes to make comment on the matter may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. However, I will make an exception if the property owner or anybody representing the property owner wants to speak. We'll let that go for 10 minutes.
How's everyone? My name is Lawrence Moore. I'm the owner of the property that we're discussing here this evening. I apologize up front for not being familiar with protocol. What I'd like to say with respect to that property, I've spoken with Mr. Saunders and Utilities Director, and I've agreed to get rid of my tenants and cut off all sources of water to that building. I have some underlying issues dealing with the city that have gone back at least 18 years ago with respect to the storm sewer system. And it's my belief that my existing problem is a direct relationship to that default storm system. Approximately 18 years ago, there was a Larry Bell that worked for the city. I had a 1/2-inch crack in the basement floor of that building. I took him down there and showed it to him. He said to me that there used to be a storm sewer problem. There's no water running through that system anymore, so it's not an issue. I pointed out to him that there was water running through that system as he was talking. His response to me was, the city knows that there's a sewer problem. They haven't decided what to do with it. As far back as 3 years ago, Mayor, my wife, and you and I had a discussion about that storm sewer. And your response at that time was that there was an ongoing lawsuit, and the city wasn't going to address my issue until after that lawsuit was handled. I've been patient, I feel, having waited for 18 years for an issue to be resolved, and it hasn't been resolved, and I'm concerned about the fact that now the onus of repairing this is being put on me. That's about all I have to say.
Okay, and let me clarify the conversation we had about 3 years ago.
Okay.
What I told you at that time was The city takes a position, and we believe it's a valid position, that that is a private storm pipe. And I did reference the fact that we were involved in litigation at that time where a private party that was actually further down on that storm pipe was making a claim in court that was actually a public storm pipe. And I told you there may be precedent from that case that would lead at some point to city action. But I told you at that point in time that it would be our position, and it was our position in the litigation, that that's not city infrastructure. And that comes from exhaustive search of records, trying to determine if there were any easements that were ever taken, or anything that would indicate that that was city infrastructure that was put in. And we firmly believe that it was not. It was privately installed, and that's significant because if it's private infrastructure that was privately installed, we cannot go in and repair private infrastructure. It's using tax dollars for a private benefit, which state law doesn't allow us to do. Now, at issue in that case, one of the facts that was being discussed and disputed is the fact that that pipe does actually drain water from city streets and from a state roadway as well. So I felt the need 3 years ago to discuss with you that those issues were being litigated, but I can tell you after that litigation, our position has not changed, that is not city infrastructure. And we can't, even if we wanted to. If that's not city infrastructure, we can't invest taxpayer dollars in repairing the storm pipe.
All right. Well, my question to you all is that now that I've decided to shut that building down, is there any other violation that I would have to deal with?
And I can't answer that off the fly. I know there's a resolution that the board will consider tonight, and it gives you 60 days to make the repairs. Alderman Maynard, do you have that resolution before you, or does somebody recall the language? I do, Mr. Let's look at the language, and I'll pull it up too, and see if that would meet the test of the language.
Mr. Moore, will the repairs be done within 60 days to make that building safe?
I think what he's suggesting, his plan is for the immediate future to clear the building of any tenants and to not have it open as a place of public accommodation, to seal the building so that no one would be able to enter, and to cut the water source off. So essentially he would mothball the building until he decided to do something else with it.
Exactly.
And I guess in that scenario, the sewage issues, and Mr. Kemp, I may need your help. If there's no water, there would be no sewage leaking from the building. Is that correct? So those issues would be remedied. You'd still have structural issues, but you would not have anybody working in the building or coming into the building to do business. Now let's look at the actual resolution and see. So the pertinent section would be the owner of the subject property shall have 60 days from the date of this resolution to remedy the structural defects and health issues related to the subject property to the city's satisfaction, or the city shall proceed to clean the land by use of municipal employees or by contract, including the demolition and removal of the dilapidated building on the subject property. I would submit that under the language of this resolution, that would not suffice, because this resolution is giving you an opportunity to remedy the structural defects. And under that scenario, the structural defects wouldn't be remedied. So I would submit, if this resolution is passed as is, you would need to remedy the structural defects within the 60-day period, or the board could amend the resolution to allow for the structural defects essentially to remain without the building serving as a place of employment or public accommodation.
May I ask Buddy a question?
You may.
Mr. Sanders, is it based on the report from the engineer, structurally, is this building a hazard to the community?
The immediate threat to the community is there's a very large hole in the earth in front of the building, and there's nothing to keep someone from falling into that hole.
Is there any chance the building would collapse?
I do not see that happening.
Mr. Moore, what are your long-term plans for this building?
Well, my wife and I, our long-term plans were just to use that building for income in our retirement. I have no immediate plans for that building right now other than to possibly sell it, to sell the land. It's a commercial corner lot. So with respect to the hole itself that you all referred to, I mean, it is fenced in, and it's constructed in such a way where a person can't just bump into it and fall into the hole. It's pretty sturdy.
Alderman Perkins?
Yes, sir.
Member
Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Attorney, let me dialogue with you a minute on this. The property owner proposes to shut the building down and have the tenants removed and not use the property in question. So let's say that the board agrees to do that. So I think we also would have to have some language, if it is the will of the board, to ensure that there is full compliance with whatever safeguards that the board want in place in the event that the property owner elects to reopen the building in the future. So if the board, and of course I don't know what the board's going to do, but let's say the board elects to let him just shut the building down as he's proposing. So I think the board, in my opinion, would need some language in there to ensure that the public is protected with some type of language in the event that he shuts it down for 90 days and reopen it the 91st day. So that if we don't have any safeguard there, then it'll put us back where we are. So I just want to mention that just in case the board's going to go that direction. But and as the mayor read the resolution, we have, of course, that's I understand what the mayor read, but I don't know. But I wanted to mention that just in case the board was thinking that way. Do you agree we need some safeguards there?
I do.
Okay. So if the board does that, and whatever's the will of the board, I think it'd be good to, you to give us the language there, that would allow, if that's the will of the board. And I don't know what the board's thinking. I'm just thinking lawyer to lawyer here. That if the board wants him to, allows him to shut the building down, he said he's going to have all his tenants to remove from the premises, but the violation is still going to exist from what the engineer, the licensed engineer in the state says, and then the sewer problem is still there, but of course the health and safety issue and the structure issue is there. So, but if the board elects to do that, and the board may not elect to do that, but they do, we got to have some type of safeguard, because we don't know when it may reopen. And if he reopens, then there got to be some notification to somebody with the city, and they need to go down and inspect, and we need to make sure conditions A, B, and C or E are taken care of. Otherwise, we're going to be back on this issue again. So I just want to mention that, and I'm going to yield the floor, Mayor, so Mr. Mayor, so whatever the board decides, but I want to make sure that that was the motion, that we proceed, in my legal opinion, in that manner. I yield, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor, I agree, and we could either amend, if it's the will of the board, the resolution on the table, or perhaps it might even be cleaner, because there's no legal requirement that this decision be made by resolution versus board order. So whatever the board order is or decision made tonight, I can paper that in the form of a motion and put those safeguards into the motion, whatever the pleasure of the board is.
Yes, sir. I yield, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Moore, do you have any additional comments?
No, I can't think of anything else at this time. I thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Are there any further comments? Any further public comments on this matter? Any further public comments? Any further public comments? Seeing none, we'll go back into concluding comments by the members of the board. Are there any concluding comments by the members of the board? Any concluding comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have one.
All right.
That the engineering report be attached to the minutes as part of the record of the hearing.
Any further comments? Any further comments? All right, seeing none, the next matter on the agenda is a presentation of the building cost comparison for the Starkville Police Department. That's board business. By Chief Nichols and Gary Schaefer. I believe they'll have a PowerPoint, so we'll give them a second.
Honorable Mayor, Honorable Vice Mayor, members of the board. The members of the Starkville Police Department, the men and women, brave men and women who are standing behind me today, and myself, come before you to ask you to approve phase 2 of this proposal. I've been with this police department for 24 years. This started about 2001 under the leadership of Chief David Lindley. We've looked at approximately 8 different sites, 8 different plans over the last almost 20 years. I believe, in my personal opinion, that this is our best choice right here. These brave men and women standing behind me simply want a building that they can be proud of, that they can come to work and be proud of every day. Whether you approve it or not, they're gonna come to work and they're gonna do their job, come rain or shine. But we would like for you to approve it. I did some research. The 1% tax increase results at a house for $200,000, it's an additional $20 a year, which if you divide that by 12 months, it's $1.06. For $1.06, you can put these brave men and women in a home they can be proud of. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Chief.
Hello, Board. The good news is there are only 4 slides tonight, so this should be quick. This is apples to apples presentation 2. One was comparing the renovation cost of the existing police building with the Cadence Bank building. And as you remember, it was found that the renovation of the existing building was less expensive. Even if the renovation cost of the 2 buildings were the same, what tipped the scale was the purchase costs of the bank building far exceeded the revenue generated by the former City Hall building. We're 1/4 done. Apples to Apples 2 will compare the renovation cost of the existing police department building to the construction cost of a new building. This will be made easier because the construction cost of the new building was actually generated in 2012 on the North Jackson and Old Highway 82 site. I believe that's the site that is now currently having the Family Dollar store constructed on it. So, if we start with the police program, which is 26,780 square feet, we know that would be the same size requirement for a new building, and that is the size of our renovated police building. So we at least start with an apples to apples. when we look at the new building, we use this book, the mean square cost average for building construction. And they have in this book, for a new police facility, is $240 a square foot. So that would be 6.48 million. Now, that would produce new construction, entirely new construction, roof, walls, foundation, slab, everything would be new, all the inside would be new, and that would do the site work. If we look over at the existing police department, our current cost estimate is $162 a square foot. So you said, well, how did you do that? Well, we were able to do that because in the existing building, the foundation is already there. We don't need to dig the foundation, put the steel in, pour the footings. The structural walls are there, the slab is already in place, the exterior walls are there, made of reinforced concrete. The roof structure is there, the steel trusses, the beautiful wooden decking system is already in place. Granted, Chief, we do have a few leaks in the roof, but we intend to take care of that. We will put a new waterproof layer on, but when you're in that building, that beautiful roof structure is already in place and is already paid for. We will renovate the stage that is there. We will have fully renovated the interior, and we will have done the site work. So at the end of the day, I say those are both still apple-to-apple conditions. When you look at the code compliancy of both buildings and the life cycle nature of the buildings, with both a new building and with this existing police building, we will meet full ADA requirements. Our heating, plumbing, electrical, and fire protection will be all brand new. So granted, any mechanical system has a 15 to 20-year life expectancy, and then we will have to replace it. But both of these building options would start with brand new ones. So we would anticipate they would all need replaced at about the same time, whether we did them in a new building or we did them in the existing building. What wouldn't need replaced in the existing building would be the foundation system, the walls, the slab, the structural system in the roof. All of those have already been checked by a structural engineer. They've been in place for 60 plus years. They should be in place for another 60 plus. So you would see we would have to build the new walls, the new floors, the new slabs in the new building that we already have in place. Also, we know that time is money. If we follow the construction of the condo projects on Russell Street and on Montgomery, we've watched all winter as they've struggled, and now they finally have in their foundation systems, their wall systems, and their roof systems. They're just starting on the inside, but our City Hall building is already there. So what that allows us to do is to shorten the construction time. So the remaining unknown is between a new building and the existing building. A new building would require more land, and we would have to pay for that land. When we did our estimate back in 2012, that land at that time was a little over $1 million. So when you go to the bottom line of this project, the bottom line is it is less expensive to renovate the existing building than to build a new equal building. And in this example, to the tune of about $3.1 million. So I do believe that we can build a new, I do not believe we can build a new building for less than the renovated cost of an existing building. In closing, the chief has asked me to cover the schedule of the project to date. In February, we finished the schematic design. In April, we finished the design development. We are on schedule to finish the construction documents on May 31st, and they'll be submitted to Mississippi Department of Archives and History. I would like to suggest that we could put the building in the paper to advertise it June 1st and June 8th, June 9th is when Mississippi Department of Archives and History Permitting Committee meets. We have kept them in the loop all the way along, and I am cautiously optimistic that we will be getting the permit for this building. If that happens, we would be able to open bids on June the 30th. July 6th, we could give the notice to proceed. It will take 9 months to do the construction. So April 6th, 2017, this project for this police department could be complete. That's only 11 months and 3 days from today. Thank you.
Questions or comments from the members of the board? Are there any questions or comments from Mr. Shea? Any questions or comments? Alderman Carver.
Thank you. First of all, I guess it's my turn to say thank you for the police staff for coming out tonight and the chief. I think if we look at this project in a vacuum sense, it's really simple to say, should the police department get a new building or renovate a building? And the answer is yes. Across the community-wide, people know that this has been an issue probably for the last 15, 20 years or more. To look at this as an elected official, though, you've got to understand that this is not just about, about a police department. This is coming up in the next few months. These are just some notes I took a minute ago. We've got the master park plan, which is going to take significant funding if that's been the talk over the last few months. We're trying to do pay increases for all city employees and get a rate progression scale that would get everybody equal. And we've got instances where older city employees or tenured city employees aren't making as much as new city employees. We've got a partnership school out at Mississippi State University that we'll have to adequately fund that. We've got infrastructure needs. We've got roads that are crumbling. We've got a capital improvement list coming up and things like that we need to work on. And lastly is the industrial park. So you've got a lot of taxation, possible taxation in the near future. My issue with this is it's kind of ironic. Just a few months ago, a year or so ago, we basically lobbied against this building because we didn't feel like it was adequate for our city hall staff. So even though it failed a referendum a couple of times, we ended up with this building. And it started off with about a $1.3 million price tag on the renovation of this city hall. Alderman Perkins, Alderman Vaughn, and myself voted against this because we all thought that was a bad idea at the time. I never did think that $1.3 million was even close to getting the project started. So shortly after that, that moved up to about a $3 million earmark, and from there it's turned into about a $5.4 million earmark. I've never been really in big support of this location. I think if you're down there, and you guys are, on a day-to-day basis, it's not adequate parking. How many do you have on staff? 50?
How many officers?
Yes.
I have 60 officers right now. I have a total of about 76, 77 now.
And inside this gate, how many actual parking spots will there be?
27.
27, so for a staff of 70. I've never felt it's really conducive for what you guys do. I was in favor of the Cadence Bank project down here. I would be in favor of pretty much putting y'all on some new type of development. You have my word tonight that if this were to go to new construction, I would be much more in favor of that. In the state, again, they decided, I guess it's because it's National Register of Historic Places, this was not a good use of taxpayer dollars. I don't like the layout of it. I don't think that it's anything that we all know you need a house and need a newer house. I remember having the meetings down there, and we'd have to turn all the fans on because the backups of the water and the sewage, and what an embarrassment that was. And I would much rather see y'all have adequate parking for 70 to 100 cars. I don't think the department's through growing. I know Chief has come before, and he definitely supports more officers. So I guess tonight, it's no secret I'll be probably voting against this. I will be voting against this. I think it's just not conducive, probably because of the location and because of the inadequate parking. You've got 27 parking spots for a staff of 70. I know you all guys, you don't work at the same time. I understand that, but you do have meetings that you all are there and bringing people in and out. So that was just some notes I made, and I guess I'll yield the floor. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments by the members of the board? Alderman Nguyen.
Chief Nichols, to you and your department, and certainly to the mayor and the vice mayor and to the members of the board that I serve with. Last week, I spent an enormous amount of time on this, at the decision that I was going to arrive at tonight. As you know, I visited your office. got the city clerk on the telephone. You and I got the figures from her. What this would cost for a home that's valued at about $200,000 in our city, and we learned that that's a little bit about $1.65 a month. I spoke with our council, who I had on the telephone while I was in your office, needed some information on something. I spoke with the Golden Triangle Plan Development District, a representative there, regarding some certificates of participation. That's not an option for us, because this building is the Mississippi heritage. So it's under that. That's not an option. I spoke with our financial consultant, Demery Grubbs, because I needed to know tonight that the decision that I make would be in not only the best interest of the police department personnel, but for the city and for the people that I serve in Ward 2. And I spoke with you because I needed to know that if this passes tonight, what would we do with your personnel over there at your building? We got to talk about some space if that were to pass tonight. And I thought about it. If this passes tonight, and I don't know that it will, but there is available space here in our building. I hope that the mayor, the vice mayor, and members of the board will welcome you all here for a little while, that you'll need some space. I looked at the option of delaying. Delaying costs money. I had to consider that. And last but not least, to my colleague, the vice mayor. He has served our city, I think, a total of 23 years. And he has never, ever voted for a tax increase. So that tells me that the vice mayor, that the members of the board and I selected to serve as the vice mayor for our city on June the 2nd, July the 2nd, 2013. It tells me that he understands the severity of this. And while certainly I do. So tonight, I will go on the record and say that I fully support you and the men and women in blue that serve and protect our city. In my ward, I don't think that I could go to any home tomorrow that the person would tell me that I wouldn't want to pay $1.60 for you all to be in a home that you can be proud of. Certainly the PD is not a home that you can be proud of when we make the media, because there are sewage problems and we're having to have to send home personnel that was expecting at the time. That doesn't bode well. I hope one day that our city will host a chief conference and hope that they'll be able to come look at something that you all are in, that you all can be proud of. So again, tonight, I go on record and say that I will be supporting
Thank you so
this
much.
measure, that the vice mayor's proposal. Mayor, I yield the floor at this time.
Alderman Carter.
What were the figures you said on what price house? How much was it?
$200,000. It's $20 a year.
How much?
$20 a year.
And that's the $165 a month? How much would the $8.5 million price tag cost for a $200,000 house?
I have no idea.
You know?
Okay, hold on. All right.
Get you around $2.
The total figure of that is approximately 3.5 mils. Now you are absorbing a little over a mil. Now you're absorbing a little under a mil on this project, I'm sorry. So let's say you're absorbing 0.75, be about 2.75 mils versus 1 mil for this. And that's at the table math.
So you're saying for less than $3 you can do the new construction?
Yeah, I mean, 2.75 mils, I just use $100,000 as the baseline because it makes for easy figures. So that'd be $27.50 a year per $100,000. So if it was a $200,000 house, that'd be $53 a year.
In this schematic right here, you've got about 70 full-time and part-time staff, correct?
Well, I have, 70, about 72 counting part-time, 73.
What is the office space capacity? Does this have 100 offices? I mean, what's?
Has way more than what we have right now.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying at what point would we have to, you know, is it 100, can it accommodate 120 staff, 100 staff?
I would say this right here probably can hold about 100, about 110.
110? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
And you got to remember, what Gary's done is Gary has built the same program that was used in the previous plan into that building. So the outside of this building will look totally different. The difference will be similar to the difference you've seen in the mill. It will be a historic structure, but it will be an historic structure that has a presence you will be very, very proud of. On the inside of the building, that will be just as new as everything in this building.
And then my last concern was the ADA accessibility. You know, we talked about that with the lock gate. If it's an 88 individual and they need to get in the building, will they be coming in the way that they currently did behind the Board of Aldermen?
No, there's a new ADA entrance just underneath that window to the left of the front door. So everybody will come off of that front plaza. You either walk up the steps or you'll go directly in the entrance, which has a lift, and they both get to the exact same place in the lobby.
It's kind of where the youth services side is. You're staying on the left side with to the right of the flagpole?
Not quite that far.
It is exactly there.
Right there. Okay.
If you look, there's a little air conditioning unit that occupies the whole, make the hole bigger, put a lift in there, and you'll immediately come, and then that new public meeting room will be to the left of that.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Alderman Walker.
Thank you all for your presentation again tonight, but I want to go back to the presentation from the budget that I have from 2/20/2016, just to have a few questions. I think we all do agree, and I believe that Alderman Maynard and Alderman Carver are dead on, that we have a lot of issues that are going to require deep consideration in how we look to move forward and fund or not fund those things. We all know that we have more issues than we can deal with in terms of the resources that are available to us. And so my initial response was, how can we find a way to do this with that original, that $3.5 million that we had already agreed to? What do we look at? And looking at this budget, when I do my roundtable math, looking at this, we have for the complete renovation of the basement, roughly $100,000. The first floor, complete renovation of that is $1 million. Complete renovation of the second floor is $700,000. The complete redo of the system, the HVAC, plumbing, etc., is about 1.7. So when you add those numbers up, it gets you to your 3.5. Right, approximately. And so my thought was, is there a way to phase so we can look at waiting on the exterior of the building? But when I looked at the numbers, if you look at that 3.5 to get just the inside of the building completely renovated, when you add the professional service costs, when you add the printing, the advertisement, and the 12% contingency, at the end of the day, you're left with about $4.5 million or $4.4 million to have that $3 million or $3.5 million worth of construction that we know from day one is needed. So when I look at that, I look at the exterior work and see that the real difference of not doing that or being able to wait, and when we maybe are in a little bit better financial position to do that, the real difference in having a completely renovated building, exterior and exterior, is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $650,000 to $700,000 based on my math. And when I'm looking at that, while $650,000 or $750,000 is real money, and that is significant money, in the bigger piece of this, I'm not sure that's worth waiting to do. The question I have, and this is, I know it's a difficult question, if this board were to agree to the 5.4, to be able to bond that, looking at a 12% contingency, how comfortable are you with that number of being a 12% contingency? Do you feel like that has the opportunity to increase or potentially decrease? I know usually the decrease never happens.
I believe at the last meeting, Mr. Perkins put me squarely in that crosshair already, and I believe I answered him. It was our opinion between the engineers and the architects that we were on budget. It is still my opinion that we are on budget, and so I'll answer it the same way.
So if we look at this, we're talking about essentially a 1 mil increase in taxes for a project that would clearly be a significant improvement over what we have. Will it mean that we have to make tough decisions down the road on how we do? Absolutely. The industrial park, pay raises for our employees, how we deal with parks issues, all of these issues, I agree with Alderman Carver, they can't be looked at in isolation. We have to look at them all together. So no matter what the decision that is made by members of the board tonight, know that we certainly value everyone's service to our city, and it is my hope that we can put this issue to rest, knowing that is clearly going to create a burden for many of our citizens whenever you increase taxes. It's not something that should be taken lightly. It also means that as we move forward, we need to strongly consider increasing the tax burden further, and what does that mean as we begin to talk about industrial development or other innovations in our park or in our city. We talked significantly about crumbling infrastructure in our city. I think that is absolutely true. You can look on any street, you can see roads that need to be paved. We have sewer lines and water lines all over our city that are in need of renovation. That can't be debated. I would also argue that this is clearly a piece of infrastructure that is city owned, that is well past due for renovation. So, not being an easy decision for me, this is something that I look to support tonight, to be able to turn the page, hopefully, on this, to have a renovated piece of city infrastructure that can serve our police station, hopefully very well for the next 25 to 50 years without having significant amount of changes or improvements that need to happen there. It does, however, create more difficulty as we move forward on how we plan to look at other renovations or other improvements in our city. There is no question about that. I wish we had more. Hitting people on a tax break or on a tax increase for 1 mil, $20 a month. But when you look at the other issues that are coming, it has the potential to grow significantly in 1 year when you look at the other issues that also need to be addressed. So Alderman Carver, I'd certainly appreciate where you're coming from there. So gentlemen, I say thank you for the hard work, and I appreciate all the men and women for the PD and their hard work. But when I look at the numbers, the difference that I come to for a completely renovated interior new building versus the exterior, I'm only short about $650,000 or $700,000. At that point, I think it's probably prudent to go ahead and bite it all off at one time and have a project that is going to serve the needs for the present and in the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Alderman Little.
Appreciate the presentation, Mr. Schaefer and Chief.
Yes, sir.
I understand you guys have been putting, like, as you gave a little history earlier, 15, 20 years, y'all been trying through various means of relocating. There was public outcry over that. The expenses, there was public outcry over the expense of a couple different sites and locations. I agree with the Vice Mayor. It is time to put this matter to rest. The question is, how much should we spend, and how much can we spend? I don't think relocation of the police department is really a viable option. If we were to go that route, we should have been looking last summer. Last summer, we, as a board, agreed to move forward with renovating that building once the Cadence deal fell through, and that's where we've been tracking. The prior board had authorized about 1.3 roughly in certificates to renovate. I don't think it was going to really more cosmetic than anything, touch the tip of the iceberg, but this board agreed to go up to $3 million in GO bonds to get the renovations done. And Mr. Schaefer, you were tasked with moving forward with $3 million, and you knew going in what you had to work with. Yet we come back with 5.4. And the question is, do we stay the course? One thought, it's never going to be any cheaper than it is today to get the work done. You've got those construction crews out there. Materials go up continually each year, so that's something that we need to bear in mind. The others, do we stay the course and renovate with the $3 million that we previously allocated? Both sides, I believe, have their merits. The problem is, if we do it now, it comes with a tax increase. And I think that $20 a year may be a little bit of an oversimplification, because businesses, rental property aren't taxed at the same rate. It's a higher rate. They don't get homestead exemption, so that would be more burden put on those folks. There's never enough money to do all that we'd like to do. I found that out really early on in the term. Never. There's so many things coming down the pipeline right now. I think we're at a crossroad, a critical crossroad, and we've got a lot of decisions to make over the next few weeks, as has been mentioned by several members already. It's going to impact every citizen in the county and city. And this board needs to decide now, what do we want Starkville to be? And that's something we're going to decide in the next few weeks. In addition to the PD, it's already been mentioned. I've got some notes written down. The links development ask is coming the next board meeting. We've got the Parks and Rec comprehensive review pending. I'm not sure where that's going to take us. We've got numerous roads. I'm sure everybody that drove here tonight hit a couple of potholes on the way. They're in dire need of repair. City engineer, where's Edwin? How much do we have allocated this year for street resurfacing in the budget? How much? Is it zero? Thank you. Where's all the money coming from? We met earlier today on a drainage issue in my ward with a citizen. And we met last week with someone else. Did we, Edward? Those streets and drainage is basically where the rubber goes. Those are the calls that I get daily, at least weekly. And that's a very important area, and that's what the folks are thinking about when they drive to work each day. I'm hitting potholes. Is my yard flooding unnecessarily? What can the city do to help fix the street? They can't get through the road. If they needed an ambulance during a heavy rain, they'd have a time getting through some of these areas. Y'all seen the rains we've had lately. These are some areas that we really need to be mindful of. We have a great PD staff. I know several of you. I appreciate all you guys do. You've been working in deplorable conditions over the last few years, and it's upsetting to have to see y'all work in those conditions. It was embarrassing when I first came into City Hall, when we were sworn in that day when I brought my family in from out of town. It's just bad conditions, and yet that's where the PD is now. So I agree we need to do something, but I'm hesitant to spend the 5.4, Chief, and we discussed this last week, and I'm going to stay tracking on the 3.1 million. Regardless of which way the board goes tonight, I think the PD wins either way, because $3 million is a lot of money. It'll do a lot of repairs and get you in a much better place than where you guys have been. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. All right, the next matter before you is the consideration of a street closing request by the Starkville Main Street Association to hold the motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of a street closing request by the Starkville Main Street Association to hold the 2016 King Cotton Crawfish Boil on May 13th, 2016, and have the city participate with in-kind services. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of a resolution declaring the intention of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi to issue general obligation public improvement bonds of said municipality in the maximum principal amount of $2,400,000. And the city attorney has asked to make comments at the outset of this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify something, Board, and get it on the record tonight, if you look at Section 3 of the resolution, it listed the address for this building as being 101 East Lampkin Street, which of course is not correct. So I've revised the resolution to correctly name the address 110 West Main Street, and in passing a corrected version of the resolution to the city clerk for the minutes tonight. That's the only change to the resolution, but just wanted to make that on the record.
All right. Alderman Perkins, would you like to introduce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Attorney, thank you for that technical revision to the resolution. To the Mayor, distinguished colleagues, Chief of Police, City Attorney, to our officers, and to all of you who are assembled here. The matter before us tonight is whether or not the board should at this time move forward with determining a permanent location for the Starkville Police Department, and whether or not there should be full funding for the renovations for the Starkville Police Department. As you've heard tonight, I have been a member of this board since on about the 6th day of July 6th of 1993. This is my 6th term in my 23rd year. The matter of the location of the police department and as to the funding has been before this board, or a board, being a prior board, since the 1997-2001 term. During the 1997-2001 term, the city of Starkville was donated property which was formerly recognized as the Walmart, the old Walmart property on Highway 12 West. The property later became known as the Remington Hunt Club in the Bulldog Bowling Lane. That property was donated to the city. The city did not pay 1 cent for the property. There were designs, layouts for a police station there. But did the city move forward with a police station? No, it did not. The property was donated to the city, but yet the city sold the property and the money ended up in the general fund. It just got swallowed up in the general fund and no benefit per se for the Starkville Police Department. You've heard tonight from the Chief of Police and some of the others that there have been at least 8 locations for consideration for this particular project, and they are correct. And I may not necessarily tell you the order in which we considered them, but I can tell you that I was at the table of discussion at all of those matters, and probably, if my recollection serves me correctly, but I can't give you the name of the 8, but the old Walmart property, the board, for some reason, that was in the probably the 97, 98 year, 99, I think at that time, gentleman from one, Marie Lee, you may not remember her, but she, and I remember her, she was on the board at that time, she did not do a complete term. She left before the year 2000, so I know when she was on the board during that term, that was Mayor Rutledge term. Mayor Rutledge was the second mayor that served during my tenure. Mayor Jesse Greer was the first mayor. Matter of fact, this matter of the Walmart building was never one that the board wanted to move with. So after that, you had the old Coke company, the old Coke plant, as you all know, on Highway 12. That was a location. So the board did not move forward with that location, and eventually there was some consideration for the property there on the Highway 25 bypass. That was location number 3, and thereafter the city, I think during the 2005 term, looked at some properties, one being called Under the Hill there by the old Ice House. That property that's located to the west of the now Starkville Utilities Department. That we can call that property number 4, and then the Copeland property where the Family Dollar store to the west of that location, and that would be properties number 5. And then in the 2005 term, there was some discussion about the old Millsaps building and property number 6. And then in this term, there's been a couple of considerations, being the Cadence building, and now the location of the former city hall. So during my 23 years on this board, this matter has been discussed very intently. It has been discussed very passionately. It has been discussed very fervently. It has been discussed very profoundly. It has been discussed very thoroughly and comprehensively. I listened to the discussion tonight very respectfully and professionally about let's start with a new building. You know, a new building would be good and fine, and of course the presentation by Mr. Schaefer tonight indicates that a new building would cost at least $8.5 million. But one thing I want to share with my distinguished colleagues and to the public and to all of those of you who are watching this on the television, back on the 27th day of September 2011, there was an election on this same issue for $8,455,000. Did the voters approve that? No, the voters defeated that on the 27th day of September 2011, and the only ward that carried an affirmative vote or more yeas than nays was Ward 5. So it is my opinion that given all of the discussion, all of the public input, you know, I have seen the public involved. The democratic process has been at its best. The public has been heard. The public has given great input, great feedback. We have heard from the public meeting after meeting. I've attended over I don't know how many meetings since the late 90s up to now. We've had very intense discussion about the Cadence property, the notice of intent. That fell on a 3-4 vote. Back in the 2005-9 term, there was a 4-3 vote to have a non-binding referendum that passed on a 4-3 vote in March, thereabout of 2006. But later it was vetoed because the then mayor felt that the Millsaps property, according to his veto message, was a viable option for the police station. Given all of these things that we've heard, new versus renovated, we've had the discussions. The facts are in. The evidence is in. We've talked about it. We've discussed it. We've deliberated. We slept on it. We've heard everything to hear. How do I know that? I've been here 23 years. I've been a part of the discussion. I've heard them. This has been discussed for 5 terms. 97 to 01, 01 to 05, 05 to 09, 9 to 13, 13 to 17. Countless aldermen have come and gone. This is the 4th police chief that I have served under. The 4th police chief. This is the 3rd mayor that this has been discussed under. Mayor Mac Rutledge was a 2nd 2-term mayor. Mayor Kent was 1 term, and the current mayor, he's in his 2nd term. This is the 3rd mayor. A countless number and a multitude of citizens. To my colleagues, to the public, there's nothing left to discuss. We're either going to provide these officers with a building, or we're not going to provide them with a building. It is voting time. Those of you in great respect who are new at the table, all these discussions have been had already. We've seen the layout on the screen tonight. 8.5, 2011, 8.4. It's not going to become any cheaper. Yes, I would love a new building, but we're not going to get it. If we couldn't vote for Cadence, we're not going to vote for a new building. That's a realistic point. We might as well to move on tonight. These officers deserve this building, and certainly we have a lot of issues that are going to come before us. And I've seen them come and go over these 23 years. I've seen them, these same issues that have been articulated very distinctly and meticulous by my colleagues. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it comes down to the highest and the top priority. And the highest and top priority that I see for this city tonight and for the rest of this term is funding the full renovations of the Starkville Police Department. We cannot talk about this forever. We need to bring this to a close. It's just like when you go to court, the judge's not going to let you try the case all day long. There's a process, there's a procedure. And when your time is up in court, the case goes in for a decision. This has been done for almost 2 decades. Yes, I'm going to offer the motion in a few minutes for a tax increase. Yes, I asked for it to be put on the agenda before the last meeting. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to offer a motion for the issuance of general obligation bonds in the amount of $2.4 million. And that is to be added on with the $3 million that the board approved months ago, totaling $5.4 million. And Mr. Architecture had steadfastly and fervently assured the vice mayor, the mayor, the city of Starkville that it will not exceed $5.4 million. And that's what we hired him to do. We're going to hold him to his word, and I'm comfortable with that. That's what we're going to build it for, not a penny more. We hired him. That's what he's going to do. That's what we're going to build it for. We're not going to have any cost overruns because he has assured us and he knows he's the licensed professional. We're going to get it done for that amount. And in order to pay for that $2.4 million, we're going to offer a 1 mil tax increase. And this 1 mil tax increase, according to the resolution that we have, it will terminate and cease once the indebtedness have been paid. And this is a priority because the citizens of this city have made it known that they want this police department and the police station to be a top priority. These men and women have been working in these deplorable conditions. Put yourself in a position where you've been working in, and you can work in a building with, where it's raining on you. raining, sewer problem. Would you want to work in those conditions? If anybody tell me no, they're not being honest with me. No, you wouldn't. And so tonight, I encourage all my colleagues. You know, we're going to always to vote for this matter. We're always going to have potholes. We're always going to have these other issues. Issues never cease. But the bottom line is, this issue is not just coming to us from being presented a few months ago. This issue and matter has been before us since the late 90s. And it's time to put this matter to bed. It is time for this matter to come to a final rest. And, you know, the engineer mentioned there's no money in the budget for this. We just got to take one priority at a time. You know, it's just like, you know, spending our own money. You know, at our homes, our business, you know, we cannot take care of everything at once. We just have to prioritize our money. I run a business. I have to prioritize my money, how I'm going to spend it. This is the top and highest priority. So tonight for the city of Starkville, the police department is the top and highest priority. We should not keep putting this department back and back and back. It'll never get done. We'll be waiting another 20 years. They deserve closure. All this uncertainty. The officers have to come down here and the expectations get high. They deserve some finality to this. And I want to help bring closure to this matter tonight. And hopefully if the board passes this, our architect will make sure that he stays abreast with his schedule. Every time that the Department of Archive History meet, we want to be on that agenda to ensure whenever it is necessary and proper that we get approval without even the board having to tell you to be there. Because we want this schedule on April the 6th, 2017. We want to have a grand opening where every one of us is there, and we want the whole town showing up for this celebration. We're going to have a celebration. And I'm excited about it. This is the prime issue for me. This is the top issue for me, and this is not for no political show for me. I'm not looking for any recognition from this. I'm talking from the heart. This is credible. I'm sincere. The city of Starkville needs this. This police department has always, in my opinion, has been the highest and the top priority than any other matter at any time during my time here for this and over this 20 years. But this matter has been pushed back and back and back and back. But the only way we can put this matter to rest, we got to make the decision. And once we make that decision, we got to move on. You know, it's not difficult for me to make these decisions. Just get the facts. The facts clearly justify that these officers need a new renovated building. Partial's not going to do it. What a partial renovation going to do? You're going to put it off to the next board. Then when they get here, we got to deal with all the political consideration, all the elements and all those things, and just maybe we don't know who's going to be at the table. Then we got to go through all this over and over again. Then the cost steady rising. It's steady increasing. It's steady getting more and more. So, Mr. Mayor, with all that being said, and all the things I've said tonight, it's been no disrespect to anybody, but I'm just very passionate about this. I've heard enough about some discussion. Well, we need to have a new building. We need to have partial renovation. We need to have this. We need to have that. I've heard that for 20 years. Enough is enough of anything. Do we want to discuss for 20 more? I sure don't. I don't want to hear nothing else after tonight about the funding of this building. We got other things to move on to. I don't want to hear nothing else about this at this table about the funding aspect of this matter. Mr. Mayor, with all that being said, I want to thank all our officers for all their exemplary service to our community. I want to thank the chief, his command staff, and all his entire staff for all their for their hard work and their dedication. As I mentioned earlier, Chief Nichols is the 4th chief that I have served under and done a very great job. And just want to thank all of you for coming out here tonight. Your work we may not say anything to you sometime, but it certainly does not go unnoticed. So, Mr. Mayor, with all those things said, I want to offer a motion tonight to issue $2.4 million in general obligation bonds with the resolution that the city attorney has already prepared. The resolution contains a $1 mil tax increase, and the $1 mil tax increase will terminate and cease once the total indebtedness is paid off. There's a reverse referendum in that, resolution, and we'll be back on June the 7th of 2016 to direct the issuance of these bonds. And the resolution has been reduced to writing. Mr. Mayor, if we get a second, I would like to have a roll call vote. And if you don't mind, we can start down here with the gentleman from 7 and work back to 1. So I offer that in the form of a motion. The motion is been reduced to writing. Mr. Attorney, we'll incorporate your change about the correct address of our meeting tonight. And Mr. Mayor, I yield the floor. Thank you.
Motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to approve of a resolution declaring the intention of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi to issue general obligation public improvement bonds of said municipality in the maximum principal amount of $2,400,000 to raise money for the purpose of acquiring, renovating, and equipping and furnishing of the old City Hall building and associated real and personal property, including without limitation the repair, patching, overlay, and striping of the building's parking lot located at 101 East Lampkin Street in Starkville, Mississippi, to house and facilitate the operations of the Starkville Police Department and for related purposes, and directing publication of notice of such intention as presented. Alderman Perkins, is that your motion?
Yes, sir. And that's the same resolution with the tax increase. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir. Just desire a roll call vote starting from the gentleman from 7 and working back to 1.
All right. Prior to opening the floor for discussion from the board, I'm going to make a few comments. First, Vice Mayor Perkins, I want to thank you for your leadership on this matter.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Listening to you describe the last 20 years, having some of those memories myself, and recognizing that you are the only person that has been here as an elected official for the duration of that full 20-year period, let me just say that I think this is appropriate, that you are now leading the project home. I appreciate you stepping out and taking the lead on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. One of the ironies about this situation for me, for the now 7 years that I've dealt with it, is I think it is the extraordinary job that the men and women in our police force do that makes this project so hard. And the reason I think that is because we talk a lot about quality of life in city government. And it means many, many different things. But I can assure you the cornerstone to quality of life in a city is always public safety. And in communities where people don't feel safe, nothing else matters. And I can assure you in a community that perceives it has a public safety problem, there is never any shortage of motivation to throw as much money into the provision of public safety as that community thinks it will take to no longer have a public safety problem. Now, here, the reality is our community, the citizens of our community, perceive this to be a safe community. And it is a safe community. Thanks in large part to the very, very difficult job that the men and women in our police department do every day. Now, I read a resolution tonight from the state legislature last week that was recognizing state accredited law enforcement agencies. So make no mistake about it, that couple of dozen or so of law enforcement agencies, those are the top law enforcement agencies in the state of Mississippi. That's why they're state accredited. And certainly, we're happy to be among that number. But if you heard that list, you would probably say, well, that's a list that, quite frankly, we ought to be on. The list that I did not read tonight was a list of nationally accredited law enforcement officers or law enforcement agencies in the state of Mississippi. And there are just a handful of nationally accredited law enforcement agencies in the state of Mississippi. So it is no exaggeration at all to say that this is one of the most decorated, most highly respected, most highly trained law enforcement agencies that you will find anywhere in the state of Mississippi. And it should be no surprise for a community that values public safety and feels that we are a safe community, that such a police force are the ones that are the guardians of our public safety. Now, that being said, over the course of the last month and a half, I think it should be somewhat alarming to everyone that we have twice now introduced 5 new police officers. And something that we talk about from time to time at the administrative level is turnover in the police department. The reality is a new facility does not mean that you are never going to have turnover in the police department. But I think it would be foolish, as we are experiencing a high volume of turnover, and as we recognize that currently our police department, which has distinguished themselves among the very elite departments in the state, is currently working in one of the worst facilities in the state. That certainly has to be viewed as a factor for high turnover. And if we are a community that is going to value that as much as it properly should be valued, because at the end of the day, if you don't have it, it is everything. Then we should take that very seriously, because it is an alarming sight. Now, what will happen with this renovation? We will go, when this renovation project is complete, from having one of the very worst police headquarters in the state of Mississippi to having one of the very best police headquarters in the state of Mississippi. The question is, what is that worth to us? What is that worth to us as a community? For me personally, I have no problem at all saying that is worth $1 million of taxes for us as a community and for the future of this community. In addition to that, this building is a true gem in our community, not in its current condition, but this is one of the most architecturally and historically significant buildings in this community. Being able to take our police department from having one of the worst facilities in the state to having one of the best facilities in the state, and simultaneously turning what should be one of our showplace downtown buildings in the city into the showplace that it rightfully deserves to be is a double bonus. And the community, when this project is done, will not only be proud that we finally made the journey, but I believe the community is going to be very, very proud with what the historic restoration of this building means for our downtown community. And it will say a lot about us as a city as a whole. So for all of those reasons, I don't get to vote, but I want you to all know how I feel about it. First of all, Vice Mayor, I am very, very thankful to you for taking the step forward and leading us where we are. And second, it is my sincerest hope that the board will pass this motion and we can move into a beautiful new era.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion.
Mayor.
Alderman Carver.
I think, again, we're trying to put a Band-Aid on an old wound, and a wise man once told me in local government, if people start to rush things to get nervous, and even though it's been 20-some-odd years and There have been several locations come and go in the options. I still don't think this is the best option. With inadequate parking and only about a half or less than half of police officers being able to park if they have a meeting, I see no gain from this. I do commend the police officers here tonight and some that have already left for the recertification of their accreditation, if that's the correct way to say it, because you have done it. You've done it through the years with the previous chief and the current chief. In half the space you have now, you're doing it in the way now, in the area that you have now. If you can do it now, you can do it next year, and you can do it this year and the year after, until it takes to solve this problem. Obviously, the votes are here tonight or wouldn't be brought forward. I find it interesting that my colleagues on the other end of the table who voted against a $1.3 million earmark for the police station are now in favor of something almost 3 times or more than that. The reason we supported the $3 million earmark for this was for the fact that we were told that the state legislatures, who we look up to, would be in favor of adding on another $2.4 million. They thought it was a waste of taxpayer money, or they thought it was an unwise decision of taxpayer funds. So here what's happening in local government is you have a city hall, this building we're in now, that passed, and then you have a $1.3 million price tag for police station renovation, which we know wasn't a correct price tag. That rolls up to about $3 million, and now we're here at $5.4 million. So initially, the first project this building included was an error in itself. Also, I would like to say, more or less, when did it become the norm to bypass the public opinion when you pass a tax increase? We saw it happen time and time again with this City Hall. The public is not in favor of this. The public constituents I talk to, and especially the business owners who are going to be hit with a double taxation, they're not in favor of it. I think, again, it comes back down to because it's on the National Register of Historic Places, it's kind of a fixer-upper. You're going to have to go in there and you watch the TV shows now, and you have to gut it out and redo it. I'd much rather see you guys in a new building with adequate parking, being able to park everywhere around. In my opinion, it's really no point in having a fence on the parking lot because over half the police cars that show up won't even be inside the fence anyway, even on shift changes. So I think y'all know how I feel about this particular building. The vote tonight is on this building. Would I have rather seen, I've heard the stories of the old Walmart building and Bulldog Lanes. Do I think that was a better option? Of course. I think the city missed a gold mine back in those years. I don't know the story behind it, but I think that was a gold mine opportunity missed. So what you have is kind of choosing the lesser of two evils, and I think if I could choose this project tonight, I can. I just don't like the location. I don't like the way it services our police department. I think that you guys need more room than that. And so I've not been in favor of this. Again, I would support a new mill. Do we have to get in a hurry tonight and pass this? Of course not. We don't have to. We can wait 6 months or a year and get a new design. And I'd love for Mr. Schaefer to bring that to us and present that as well. But I can't support that. Again, I just think it's a Band-Aid on an old wound. It's saying let's close a case even if this isn't the best location. So thank you.
Further discussion. Alderman Nguyen.
Vice Mayor Perkins, thank you so much for your leadership as it relates to this measure.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board, as we get ready to cast this vote, I'm going to ask that all members of the Starkville Police Department that are seated, will you please stand with your colleagues tonight? If you're seated in your seat, please go stand with your colleagues if you don't mind. I serve on a board. I'm the alderman that represents Ward 2. I am grateful to the residents of Ward 2, so many that called me last week, expressed concern, and asked that I support this tonight. I have always supported you from day one, and tonight I serve on a board that will not fail our city, and we're not going to fail the men that wear the uniform and serve and protect our city. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Chief Nichols, for the work that you've done, for the vision that you created for our city through your police department. I'm so grateful for your service, and I cannot wait to say yay or to raise my hand tonight, because it's evident to me that the last board that served our city failed you. Tonight, it stops with this board. and I'm proud to represent Ward 2, and I'm humbled to be able to cast this vote tonight. Mayor, I yield the floor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer, beginning with Alderman Vaughn, yea, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name on Alderman Perkins' motion.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Nay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Carver.
Nay.
By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, the motion passes. And without objection, I'm going to move us into a brief recess. Any objection? Question the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to respectfully ask the Vice Mayor if he would consider, due to the length of this meeting already tonight, if we could place some of these items we have to go on consent.
Gentlemen, I have no objection.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, if I may be recognized, and if it pleases the board, under planning, item B. Let's see, that's 11-2B. I would like to place that matter on consent, but prior to that, I would like to make one addition to that motion. One change to, tell you what, let's leave that one off. I'll come back to that because I've got one change I want to put on that one.
All right.
Item C, I'd like to put that on consent.
All right. Let's do this. Can you make a motion to open a discussion on consideration of matters for a consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to open a discussion on consideration of matters for the consent agenda, for a consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you want to speak on the merits?
Yes, sir. I'd like to move all these items down.
Yeah. Go ahead and put your package together.
Okay. Under.
No, wait. No, let's. Yeah.
No,
we got to pass a motion and open these.
Yes, sir. No, sir.
All right. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Saying none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. We are now in discussion of considering matters for a consent agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to consider placing 11-2C on consent. 11-2D, item 1, 2, 3 on consent. 11-2E, item 2, 3, and 4 on consent. 11-2H, item 1 and 2 on consent.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
On the parks issue, item H1, the wrong version of that contract was in the packet. So let me just forward the correct version to the city clerk, just for the record.
That's acceptable if it's acceptable to the board?
Yes, sir.
I'm getting to it. Y'all bear with me.
Okay.
Here it is.
All right. The correct contract has been placed with the clerk. Alderman Maynard, you may proceed.
11-2I, items 1, 2, 3, and 4.
4 has been removed.
items 1, 2, and 3.
All right.
11 to J, item 1, 2, and 3. Eleven to K, item A.
Or 1.
Ms. Lincoln's
A on my agenda.
Yeah, it's A on mine too. And just for the record, that's the Neil Schaefer contract, correct?
That is correct.
Which agenda controls? Just so we know whether we're talking about A or 1.
I'm not sure what version.
Which one does the clerk have? You have A?
It's A on the website. I just put it.
So which one, which copy are you? You have a 1. All right, the clerk has 1, so we're going to call it 1.
Okay.
All right, continue.
Under utilities, item 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6.
All right, are those all the items that you wish to add?
Mayor, I'm looking for the Tabor.
It's item B under board business.
Yes, I'd like to include that, Mayor, under board business, item B on consent.
All right. Is that it?
That is it, yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to read it back to you and then ask if you want to put that in the form of a motion. All right, so the items proposed for consent agenda, do you want to go ahead and make this a motion?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Maynard, is it your motion to place the following items on a consent agenda? Item 10B, the discussion and consideration of modifying the 2 conditions placed on the approved variance request VA 1604 at the April 19th, 2016 Board of Aldermen meeting as presented. Item 11-2A, the consideration,
no,
item 11-2C, the consideration to rescind board order number 4 of the April 21st, 2015 minutes and grant authorization to transfer $9,251.93 from line item number 001-000-392-920 to line item number 001-281-691-550 for the purposes of purchasing technology items within the Community Development Department as presented. Items 11D1, 2, and 3, which are as follows. Request for authorization for the construction of storm drainage inlet and flume at an amount not to exceed $4,000 on Sawgrass Drive using Ward 3 discretionary funds. Request for permission to purchase a Ford F-450 off of state contract to replace a 2001 one-ton dump truck, which was recently declared scrap due to a failed transmission, with funds to purchase the vehicle coming from proceeds of the recently sold surplus scrap vehicles and equipment in the street department funds. Acceptance of the lowest quote from Hester Fence Construction in the amount of $8,000. Not that one. All right. Item 3 will remain. And then item 11E 2, 3, and 4. Those items are as follows. Request for authorization for property insurance coverage for the city of Starkville with Renaissance Insurance Incorporated, the sole bidder, effective May 1st, 2016 through April 30th, 2018. Approval of the FY 2016 budget adjustments. As presented, the authorization of declaring old computer equipment as surplus with authorization to advertise on Gov Deals and remove from city inventory as presented. Items 11H1 and 2, which are a request for approval of the July 4, 2016 annual fireworks showcase presented by Pyro Fire Displays Incorporated to be held at the Sportsplex Soccer Field with total cost fireworks, jumpers, and entertainment not to exceed $15,000 with 50% deposit due upon signing of the contract as presented. The approval of accepting the lowest price for repairs at the Mon Creek Park Pool from Townsend's International Fiberglass Corporation with a quote of $46,060 with the funds coming from the 2% fund for mandatory repairs as needed in order for the pool to open on May 30, 2016 as presented. And the authorization to advertise to fill the vacant position of driver in the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department as presented. The authorization to hire Joanna Breland to fill a temporary part-time position of general office clerk in the finance city clerk's office as presented. And the authorization to hire Emily Corbin to fill the vacant position of assistant city planner in the community development department. Items 11J, 1, 2, and 3, which are as follows. Request for approval for Chief R. Frank Nichols to attend the 2016 FBI NNA annual training and conference and exhibit in St. Louis, Missouri on July 22nd through 27th, 2016 with advanced travel. A request for approval of Chief R. Frank Nichols to attend the spring facility planning seminar tailored for public safety personnel and city leadership interested in beginning, directing, and renovating a police government facility with advanced travel May 17th through 21st in North Kansas City, Missouri as presented. And approval to allow Lieutenant Sean Word, Officers Baybeck, Wells, Round, Jones to travel to the 2016 STARS Conference located in Biloxi, Mississippi through the FY 2016 DUI grant, which will be 100% reimbursable to meet a requirement of the grant with advanced travel as presented. Item 11K1, the discussion and consideration of approving the engineering service proposal by Neil Schaefer, NSI, to obtain a permit and renewal of the city certificate of coverage to operate the Starkville Octava Hall Class 1 rubbish landfill as required under the Mississippi statewide general permit for Class 1 rubbish site at a cost of $23,128 as presented. Items 11L 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, which are as follows. Request for approval to continue an existing agreement with the East Mississippi Community College to utilize interns during the summer semester via the Make It in America program, with interns to be paid by and all liability will be assumed by EMCC. Approval for Wesley Champion, Justin Hatcher, and Orlando Smith to travel to Scottsboro, Alabama to attend the TV PPA Assessment Lab May 22nd through 28th, 2016 with advanced travel as presented. Authorization to purchase under state contract a new Ford F-150 XL at a cost not to exceed $23,000 to place unit number 18 and to purchase a new Ford F-250 XL at a cost not to exceed $23,000 to replace unit number 25 for Starkville Utilities. Request or the authorization for the mayor to execute addendum number 2 to an amended wastewater service contract between the Mississippi State University, the City of Starkville, Breckenridge Group, IREC, CPP, Mississippi, Mississippi ST LLC, and Homestead Acquisitions. Approval for the Starkville Utilities to purchase a floating aerator system from Aqua Aerobic Systems Incorporated in the lowest of 2 quotes to replace a failed rubbish or brush aerator at the wastewater treatment facility as presented. Alderman Maynard, is it your motion to add those items to the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits? No, sir. Any discussion?
I'd like to also add an item under engineering, item 3, page 4, to consent.
All right, so Alderman Carver has made a motion to amend Alderman Maynard's motion to add item 11D3. It's a move to accept the low quote from Hester Fence and Construction in an amount of $8,025 for the concrete shoulder on Lynn Lane project to be paid from Ward 1 discretionary funds to the consent agenda. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Object.
All right, this is going to go as a motion since we're not to the point where you can object to the consent agenda yet. So do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the matter?
Yeah, so what this is if you around Lynn Lane in the morning time or around any school in town, you know there's a backup of traffic. We've noticed a situation when the Lynn Lane multi-use path was put in that individuals every morning are on, which would be heading to campus from town, from a key park, about 7 or 8 cars routinely have to pull over. If not, it backs up to about 40, 50 cars. I've got pictures and data to prove past the sportsplex every morning. Inadvertently, by accident or design, this is a way to alleviate at least half of Lynn Lane traffic situation between the 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's what this is, and I was just wondering if there's a reason y'all are objecting or if there's something that...
I'm objecting because of the contractor.
Sir?
I'm objecting because of the contractor, his work.
Is this the sole bid that we had on the contract?
Edward.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. It is not sole bid. We don't do sole source for concrete. What we do on these projects that are less than $50,000 per state statute, if it's greater than 5,000 but less than 50, we have to have multiple quotes. So typically what we do is we solicit quotes from local contractors, local being in Starkville in the Golden Triangle area, and he happened to provide the lowest quote on this particular project.
So from a housekeeping standpoint, we'll vote for this motion to be added consent. If it passes, then we'll vote as consent as a whole. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so you've heard you have one of your colleagues that's going to object if you put it on the consent agenda. So it puts you in the awkward position of if you pass this by majority and put it on the consent agenda, and he objects once it's time for anybody to have an opportunity to object to the consent agenda, and that means your consent agenda is not approved, and you're either going to have to pull that item off or you're going to have to pull everything off and go back through the discussion.
Mr. Mayor, this is a concern of his work that he did on J.L. King. He farmed us some work there, and undoubtedly, I guess he didn't look back over, and I told Edward say he'd been having problems out anyway. That's one reason I do not want to support him in his work, because his work does not substantial for me, because he farmed up some work there and left it there 2 months right on J.L. King, and I'm just not pleased with his work.
From sake.
Further discussion, Alderman Carver.
And Mr. Kent, will you speak to that, please?
Yes, sir. We had a project that Alderman Vaughn had in his ward. It was a connection of a sidewalk on Highway 182, Martin Luther King Drive, right just east of Henderson School. If you remember, there was some section of sidewalk in front of Henderson School that went all the way up the hill to Long Street. And MDOT installed a section of sidewalk as part of the Highway 182 redevelopment project that extended up pretty much all the way down to West Point Road. But there was a short segment in there, probably 150 to 250 feet or so left, and it was adjacent to kind of the drop-off lane going into the school. And we did a similar process, solicited multiple quotes. He was the low quote on that. This board approved him, and we gave him a notice to proceed to start the construction. It took him a while to start the construction, and as Alderman Vaughn alluded to, the forms were set up, and they sat there for a considerable amount of time. One of the problems that we have with these types of projects, being that they're relatively small, is we don't enter into necessarily a construction contract. It's like you basically subcontracting out these using a quote. So a potential safeguard against that going forward would be to enter into a construction contract, even though this is a relatively small amount of work. But what that does is it provides the city with some safeguards on the time. We could even install liquidated damages in there that are appropriate, and you put a contract time on there that what we think would be appropriate for this scope of work.
And City Engineer, you and I had discussion on the timeline. Is this time sensitive tonight to get this construction project done while school is out, or would we still be able to have time to re-advertise and get it in by the summertime?
No, we don't have to advertise. That's the good thing about this, because advertise only applies to publicly bid projects which are greater than $50,000. Our objective, if the board approves this, would be to start construction once school is let out, to minimize the amount of traffic and disruptions and safety and that type of thing. So we're looking at starting in really in the early June. So it could wait, but I think if you wanted to put the safeguard on there with the contract, we have a standard contract that Chris has looked at and we use for all of our construction contracts. We could apply that to this project to give the city a little bit higher level of security.
So I just want the board as a whole to know I'm pretty passionate about this, from the fact that school buses come through there every morning and they're missing cars by a foot and a half, 2 foot. Just I dare you to go there one morning and watch it, or you can watch some of the videos I've taken. But it's to a point. I understand your concern, but it's to a point that, you know, when 40 and 50 cars are backed up and pedestrians are, you know, almost getting struck. So this would be something I'm passionate enough about. I'd kill the consent agenda if it didn't make it. So thank you.
If you just put the safeguard on that, Ben, you're gonna let it go. We just need to put a safeguard on there so he can just walk away and just leave it like that till he get ready to come back and finish. That's the problem I got with it. And that's the problem there. The only way he fixed that, we threatened him that we're gonna bring it to the board, and we shouldn't have to do that.
So I would suggest, Mayor and Chris, if you're okay with this, is just to add some language at the end of that motion. And it basically read, and authorize the mayor to execute a construction contract with the approved contractor at the end of that motion.
All right, so we're in discussion on Alderman Carver's proposed amendment to the consent agenda. I'm not going to go through an amendment to the amendment. Without objection, the following language will be added to Alderman Carver's motion. It would be to add the item as revised to the consent agenda, and that would read in full a motion to accept the low quote from Headster Fence and Construction in the amount of $8,025 for the concrete shoulder on the Lynn Lane project to be paid from Ward 1 discretionary funds, and to authorize the mayor to execute a contract on said construction project. Is there any objection? Any objection? All right, we're now back in discussion on Alderman Carver's proposed amendment to the consent agenda. And that is the motion as I just stated, to add that item along with Alderman Maynard's item to the consent agenda. Discussion.
I agree.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. We're now back in discussion on the main motion, which is the approval, or excuse me, which is the adding those items to the consent agenda.
So moved.
All right, no motion needed. We've got the motion pending. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion clearly passes, and you have now prepared a consent agenda with those items on it. I will ask if there is anyone that objects to any of the items on the consent agenda. Is there any objection to any of the items on the consent agenda? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda has been approved. And the next matter before you is the consideration of the conditional use request, CU 1603, for a dwelling 2-family duplex on parcel zone R2 single family.
May I be recognized, Mr. Mayor?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of this conditional use request, CU 16-03, for Jim DeVoe for a dwelling 2-family in an R2 zone on South Lafayette. There was one condition placed on there by P&Z. I would like to edit that condition to state that instead of a full concrete drive and pad for the entire property, that they would pour an apron out of concrete from the street up to the top of the drive, and then have the ability to use crushed rock or 610 under the building with a concrete apron as a border to keep the rock in place.
All right, have you reduced that to writing?
Yes.
Can you pass it to the city clerk? Motion has been read. It's been reduced to writing in place of the clerk. Without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman.
Oh, shoot. The owner wanted the ability to put crushed rock underneath so that the water would just permeate through the soil and not just run out everywhere. But he's going to keep all that in with a concrete border. He just didn't want all concrete under that whole complex.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes, and I introduce that item out of order. The next matter on the agenda is a discussion regarding the property at 100 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to suspend this item and move it to the next meeting to give the city attorney an opportunity to draft a motion to allow Mr. Moore the opportunity to safely board up that building until he decides which way to move further.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to postpone the consideration of item 11BA to the May 17, 2016 recess meeting of the Board of Aldermen. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is request for approval of the claims docket.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Utilities Department, as of April 27th, 2016, for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2016, as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
And by a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, and I have Perkins against, the motion passes. The next matter before you is a request for authorization for Utility Services Company Incorporated to proceed with annual maintenance of the Lincoln Green water tank and to move forward with the repainting to include the new Starkville utility logo. Discussion.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to authorize Utility Services Company to proceed with annual maintenance of the Lincoln Green water tank and to move forward with the repainting to include the Starkville utility logo as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
Mr. Kim, is this water tower $13,000? We paying that to put a logo on, or we having to paint the water tower anyway?
We need to pay that work. It's up to that 10-year for its remaining.
Yeah.
There is a long-term contract we pay in every year to a large fund.
This year, we took the opportunity to kind of look at the existing one and clean it up. So what this money would be is additional to the stenciling for the new logo, plus cleaning the one that's up there now, you know, just kind of cleaning it up right now. If you'll notice, some of the staff, we looked at it as kind of blue and whatever. So that's what the 13,000.
But this
So
includes
once we do
painting it.
that one, we won't, it'll be 10 years probably until we have to deal with it again. And if it stays the same, there'd be no additional cost.
Thank you.
Is that-
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. We do have at least one time-sensitive matter that needs to potentially be heard in executive session tonight. I'll hear a motion
to go into closed session.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to go into closed session to determine whether there's a need for an executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. I'll ask that the public clear the premises so the board can begin executive session can begin closed session deliberation to determine whether there's a need for